Hi everyone, this is Françoise. Welcome back to my channel for a new simple and easy watercolor painting for beginners. In this video, we're going to paint a beautiful desert scenery in watercolor, and I'm going to break it down step by step so you can follow along. I used a reference photo that I'll link in the description if you want to check it out. I'll go over the supplies briefly, but as always, links to all of the supplies I use can be found in the description, so feel free to go check them out. I'm using a 5x7 piece of paper. It's Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper, cold pressed. I recommend this one or similar ones that are cold pressed and 100% cotton because they take water so much better, and we're going to use water for the sky today. Then I use some masking tape to keep the sheet steady and get crisp edges. For paints, I'm using the Art Philosophy confetti set, but any set or brand that you have will do. In this painting, I'll be using a large round paintbrush with natural hair fibers, and this synthetic fine tip brush that's great for details. I'm keeping white gouache for last to paint the half moon. The sketch is really basic here. I'm just going to draw a curvy line for the sand dunes, and I'm using the rule of thirds, roughly, to see where they should be located. Using the rule of thirds allows me to make the painting more pleasing to the eye by placing the horizon line in the right place. I recommend to prep your colors now so they're ready for use as you're painting. I'm mixing a little bit of orange for the sky, a lot of blue, and blue plus black to make a dark blue tone. If you have indigo, that would be great here too, but adding black to any blue you want to use will increase contrast even more and make this painting even more striking, as long as we leave some light parts too for a maximum effect. I'm wetting the sky now above the line I traced, and first, I'm going to apply my orange color at the bottom right of the sky area. I go in with my fine tip brush to keep it clean and precise. I decide to add a little bit of red to my orange to make this color more vibrant because this colorful area right there is supposed to help make the sky look more eye-catching, so I want to make sure it's bright. Now I'm going in with a very watery mix of my blue to make it light, and I keep starting from the line and moving upwards. I do this because it helps me keep the separation clean between sky and sand. More out of habit because here it's not very important since we're going to use black for the sand dunes, and that will cover up any mistake easily. I cover up the whole sky with my blue, and now it's wet and that I added this base, I'm going to darken the top of the sky with more blue paint. To make it dark enough, I need to go back in with less water, more paint in my brush, not loads of pure paint, but just a thicker mix than the one we previously applied to make sure that top sky looks darker than the bottom part. I keep darkening the top, adding more and more paint each time until I'm satisfied. It's important to take it slow like this, to go darker as you progress, and see if you need to add more or not. If the dark paint spreads towards the bottom like it's doing here, you can fade it and lighten up that bottom area with a clean and damp brush that is going to soak up that excessive paint that came from the top. As long as you do this when the paint is still wet, you're good. Just be careful to work with a damp brush because if it holds too much water, you will create a bloom. I'll link my previous video up here so you can see what that looks like, what to do, not to do, and how to do it correctly. I'll link it at the end of the video with another you might find helpful to learn how to control your water better, and I'll add them in the description as well. If you have trouble knowing how much paint and how much water to use, these two will help you a lot. I let the sky dry, and because watercolors dry much lighter than what they look like when wet, I want to layer again, same colors. I notice a lot of beginners skip that, but layering really adds to a painting. It makes it deeper and prettier to look at, in my opinion. Since I already have a solid base and all I want is make my colors more intense, I'll just paint wet on dry, which means that this time I'm not wetting the paper, and I go in with the paint right away. I'm adding orange again towards the bottom of the sky, then I add lots of dark blue to make that sky really dark and deep. Everything is dry again, but I'm noticing some visible lines in the sky, so I choose to layer again, and that's what layers are great for. They help fix mistakes in general. I repeat the whole process wet on dry, and because my paper is dry and I don't want a harsh line anywhere, I'm fading my paint wherever I stop applying it with a clean and damp brush. Now I need to mix black paint for the sand dunes and the silhouettes. When you paint silhouettes, I recommend you to use the thicker possible mix you can use. This way your silhouettes will be very opaque and they will contrast nicely with the rest. I'm painting the ground. This step is easy and fun because we don't really need to worry about the paint drying or making marks or anything. We're using watercolors as we would gouache right now, so it's easier since there is very little water involved. Now my sand dunes are dry, I want to sketch the animals before I paint them because I want to make sure they look good, and sketching them makes me feel more prepared. To sketch these, I'm drawing a curve, the head, another curve for the back, and finally the paws. It doesn't need to be perfect. If your paintbrush is not as thin as the one I'm using, you can draw bigger camels. If you need to erase your pencil lines, it's possible. Just make sure not to press too hard though, otherwise I found that the watercolor goes away a little bit. Now it's time to paint the little men. I'm taking my time for this. If you find this too challenging, just go with the camels for now. It doesn't have to be exactly like my version. I decided to add a moon like the one on my reference. I sketched the circle first with a bottle cap, and then I mix a little bit of my white gouache with some water. You need just enough water that you're able to paint with the mix easily. Again here, the fine tip brush is really convenient. To make a better transition between moon and sky, I fade the edges I create with my gouache. I also add a little bit of pure paint here and there when the moon is still wet to create brighter spots. On the opposite, to create darker ones and give an impression of craters, I use my dark blue mix. To finish this piece and make it look fabulous, you can splatter white gouache all over the sky. Your mix needs to have enough water in it that when you flick the brush at the paper, droplets come out easily. We're done, and I hope you enjoyed this new video. If you did, please like the video, leave me a comment, share it on social media, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to see what I have in store for you next. Thanks for watching and see you next time.